from a marketer perspective, you have to always think about your ultimate audience of who you're trying to reach. But from an internal perspective, how can you engage internal people at your company on your marketing initiatives? Because I think it just helps amplify the reach and the impact that you have within the company.
Welcome to B2B Content Strategist, where we bring you insights and practical tips straight from the minds of top B2B content marketing experts. I'm Amy Woods, founder and CEO of Content 10X, and in each episode, I chat with leading B2B marketers about how they consistently craft and execute successful campaigns, even when faced with tight deadlines and limited resources. If you're looking to elevate and optimize your content marketing efforts, you're in the right place. Keep listening. Hello and welcome to B2B Content Strategist. I'm your host, Amy Woods, and today I am joined by Matt Cluney, who is Chief Marketing Officer at Newrez. Newrez is a mortgage company that has helped millions of people turn home ownership into a reality with their flexible mortgage solutions. Matt brings over 25 years of experience in marketing strategy, having held roles at companies like American Express, Citigroup, OnDeck and Yardline Capital. At Newrez, Matt is responsible for the company's overall brand and marketing strategy, guiding their approach to connecting with both consumers and businesses. In this episode, Matt and I chat about the importance of truly knowing your audience and how this understanding leads to stronger marketing strategies. He explains how his team approaches content creation to connect with both homeowners and B2B audiences, and why in-house expertise is crucial for developing brand messaging. We also talk about how at Newrez they've started to explore AI from streamlining processes like data analysis and content ideation. Matt shares some fantastic insights in this episode. I know you are going to love it, so let's jump in. Matt, welcome to B2B Content Strategist podcast. It's really great to have you on the show.
Hi, Amy. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it. Great to be here.
The pleasure is all mine. So I'm really looking forward to having this conversation. So to get started, Matt, please could you summarize what your role is at the moment and also a few sentences about what Newrez does as well for anyone who isn't familiar with them?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Newrez. We are a mortgage company. Essentially, we provide mortgage home loan products to a range of consumers. We also have a very large servicing business. So we service mortgages on behalf of a range of clients. We have helped roughly 4 million homeowners with mortgages since we've been in existence. We're headquartered in the US, across a number of different locations. And I am responsible for overall marketing efforts here at the company, which covers a range of functions, everything from brand marketing to digital content marketing, customer communications, brand reputation, social media, pretty much the whole mix.
And in terms of how your team is structured, so what that looks like, what are those core segments or core teams in terms of how everyone fits together within the team?
Sure. So I'd say we're probably divided into about 3 or 4 groups. So we have a team that's focused on brand, and that's everything from brand strategy to media and sponsorships to our brand reputation and social media. The second group is creative. So we have an in-house creative services team that covers both design and copywriting. I'd say the third area of focus is what I would call channel marketing. So Newrez is one of the few mortgage lenders that has channels across a number of different areas, both on the B2C side and the B2B side. So we have marketers that are very aligned with the sales teams in each of those functions. And the fourth group is customer comms and experience. So because of, the core of our business is around servicing, the messages and the communications that we put out to our homeowners are obviously very important. And so we have a team that's focused on making sure that we deliver the best possible experience for our homeowners through communications and experience.
Across the different teams that you have there, the different focuses within marketing, Are there any particular skill sets or facets of marketing that you really like to always keep in-house within the team that you have, and others that you tend to often outsource or kind of go to the market, go to external expertise on a more flexible basis?
Sure. Yeah, I would say anything that relates to our core brand strategy, because it touches a number of different teams, obviously not only within the marketing team, but across really every function at the company. We keep that in-house, messaging, customer engagement, because really tap into the insights that our team members have around our customers and make sure those are reflected, as well as voice of customer. So I would say anything that I would say is kind of core, customer related, customer experience, brand messaging, content, for the most part, is done internally. I would say any sort of core creative or strategic work is done internally as it relates to kind of our brand's mission and goals. Where I would say we tend to outsource maybe a bit more is around anything that's a little bit more complex, where we don't have necessarily the expertise in-house. So video production might be an example of something that we might outsource, both kind of shorter and longer form video. Anything from like a technical website development perspective, we have partners to help us with that. Really any sort of like specialized services where like an outside perspective can add value is really what the lens is. But we really do have a fully staffed creative team internally, which has been great because that helps obviously, increase our time to market cost efficiently. But we're always, reevaluating, thinking about, what's the best mix for us in order to achieve our business goals.
It must be great to have such a, talented team in-house and the varied skill sets that you can lean upon, because as we've been doing this season of the podcast, I've been speaking to people like yourself who've got a fairly decent sized talented team, through to heads of marketing that are actually the marketing function without much of a team, or maybe with a few agencies supporting them or freelancers supporting them. So it's great to hear from you and the experiences that you have with a really talented team to help you achieve what you need to achieve from a marketing perspective. And you guys create lots of different types of content. So from a content marketing perspective, it's really interesting to see the different content that you create for the different audiences that you have. What is the main content format that you like to focus on with your audience? And is it more written or video or audio or visual? Like what's the main focus?
I would say recently, and even now to a certain extent, written is definitely, the focus. So blog articles, other pieces that we can put on our website, guides, 101 guides, things like that. If we think about our core audience in terms of being homeowners, we think very carefully and strategically around what are the types of things that they would find useful? What were the things that they would want to know about us, the products that they have? Mortgages are a pretty complex product, as you can know, and can get overwhelming pretty quick, particularly for first-time homeowners. So what I would say is, that's pretty much the area of focus where we've been focusing our content production. Though I will say that, we really ramped up social media, I'd say, over the last year or so, and brought a really fantastic head of social media on board. And so now what we're really thinking about is, okay, so we've got this great content. What are the best distribution channels for that? And so, thinking strategically about social media, the different platforms that are available to us, where our target audiences may be on those platforms, what are the types of messages and content pieces that we can promote? And then I would say now, with thinking about that, the next phase is really kind of evolving the content delivery to not only have written content, but video. And I would say we're getting started. We're starting to put out more video, not only just based on kind of content pieces we have, but also just leveraging our own in-house experts, not just on the marketing team, but across the company, from sales, operations, other members of the leadership team, really getting their perspective and sharing out kind of what things that we want to be known for in the market and that are relevant for the range of customers and clients that we have.
That makes sense. I think, obviously video content is huge at the moment, but it's working out the best type of video content for you and shining a light on experts across the broad spectrum of the organisation makes complete sense. It wouldn't be a podcast hosted by me if I didn't ask something about content repurposing. So
yeah, of course.
I wanted to ask you, do you have a favorite type of content that you like to create when you know that you really want to repurpose and maximize that? It's like a kind of, a favorite repurposable type of content, whether that's, webinars or videos, or like you said, is it the blog posts and the articles, but what's highly repurposable for you guys?
For me, from my perspective, anything that we can do around when I go back to kind of our in-house experts on particular topics. So we can do a little bit of a plug here. We are working with Content 10X on a video series / podcast, what we're calling Broker Buzz, which is targeted to our B2B audiences, where we highlight a range of leadership perspectives on various topics that we think our B2B audience would be interested in, everything from technology to product development to operations. And when you think about repurposing, interviews for me are the ones that I always kind of enjoy, because you get both kind of like kind of video perspective. You actually can see the person, hear them. It humanizes them a little bit more. But then offline, you can really start to take out what are some of the nuggets that you got from that video and boil it down to something where it's like, the top 5 things here, or kind of key insights from this person here, or outlook for growth here, and so you can really start to tease out some of those insights. And I think they kind of support each other well, the video and kind of the written piece.
Yeah, I feel expert interviews really do just sit at the top, don't they, for everything that you said. You just get human-led content from experts. It's not AI, it's the real experts within the organizations that are at the top of the content pyramid, and then more content can come from that. So yeah, I really love that answer. So this is a question that I absolutely love to ask, which is across your whole career, so not necessarily just focusing on Newrez, but just across your career, what would you say is one of the most memorable marketing campaigns that you have been involved in? And what made it so memorable, not necessarily successful, but really memorable to you? And what were some of the success factors with it?
Yeah, sure. So, thinking about this, I go back to a brand campaign, actually, that I worked on at a company called On Deck. They're a B2B lender. They focus on small businesses. At the time, they were one of the largest players in the marketplace. They've since been acquired by another company. And so, the primary focus was to drive brand awareness of On Deck. And the difference of this factor was like, instead of doing a very kind of large, expensive national campaign, strategically, we chose one specific market. And we went through a whole process of figuring out which market that would be. And we ended up choosing Denver. And the reason why we chose it was around kind of really 3 reasons. One, where a lot of small businesses in Denver and the market itself was growing. 2, and thinking about from a media buy perspective, the cost to get the company brand out there in the market was more cost effective, say, than other markets like New York and LA, where the cost can be a bit prohibitive. But third, the really interesting part about the brand campaign is we actually had a servicing and sales office in Denver. And that was one of the things that I learned by leveraging, if you have employees in a particular market, leveraging them as a way to drive brand awareness and having them be brand advocates. Because they were able to tell us, oh, well, you should think about, advertising in this newspaper, or this is a radio show that everyone listens to, or this person's really well known in Denver in the business community. And this is a forum which local business owners go to. And so I would say, tapping into that local and point of view expertise was something that was really valuable in getting the campaign off the ground. The execution of the campaign was also pretty interesting. One of the components was an outdoor campaign, and we came up with messaging that reflected the positioning of the company, but also from a localized perspective, it spoke to Denver businesses, and we kind of used phrases and language and tone that we felt would resonate with what kind of like the Denver market. That's why I think it was, for me, memorable, because it was really a cross-functional effort between not only the marketing team and other members of the organization, but also hyper local. And not only did it, from a results perspective, achieve the lifts in applications and website traffic that we had forecasted for the campaign, but also gives a playbook for future campaigns, which I think is really interesting, particularly for marketers. There's, it's great to get the results or, in some cases you do and sometimes you don't. But just taking the time to document the playbook, the steps that you took, the learnings, you may not replicate it 100% the next time, but at least you're not starting from scratch. It's kind of laddering up to obviously test and learn is a big mantra for marketers, right? I feel like, having campaign playbooks and strategy playbooks can be really helpful for marketers across the board.
It sounds like a really successful and interesting campaign as well. So I can understand why that was really memorable for you. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, sure. I think one of the other things that was kind of fun about it too, going back to the employee engagement piece was, one of the channels we used were buses and out-of-home transportation. And so we did this fun thing where if you saw one of the ads in the wild, you could take a photo, and then we had a little bit of a contest, whoever had submitted the most number of photos. So again, it speaks to just getting, from a marketer perspective, you have to always think about your ultimate audience of who you're trying to reach. But from an internal perspective, how can you engage internal people at your company on your marketing initiatives? Because I think it just helps amplify the reach and the impact that you have within the company.
Absolutely. I really like how you talked about how you were able to lean on the local knowledge and insider knowledge as to not just terminology, but obviously, like you were saying, like buses and locations and things like that you wouldn't know if you were sat at the desk in New York trying to work out what would be the best without speaking to people locally.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
There was a really disastrous local campaign here in Manchester in the UK where I lived last summer, where it was I think it was a ice cream brand. And they had like a big billboard in the really like the worst part of the city, and this area that has gardens at the end of it, but it's not nice. It's like really run down and awful. And the billboard said something like, there's nowhere better to have our ice cream than the serenity of whatever garden. It was like somebody local. I think somebody had messed with them. It was kind of like, was it someone's last week at the company and they said, like, you should put this in that area, because it then made national news for all the wrong reasons, obviously, because it was just a meme and a gif and made fun of, because it was nobody would have a night. No, you walk fast through that area of town. You don't sit back and enjoy like serenity in those gardens and stuff. And there was a big thing about they didn't consult the locals. I felt like they consulted a local that really messed with them. They were like scuppered the campaign, but yeah, you need local knowledge sometimes.
Maybe it was a competitor or something like that, covertly trying to direct the campaign. I would say, local advertising can work really well when it's done right and you're really tapping into real local experts and people who live there. And I feel like anything you'd want to do, you always want to vet it through someone who actually knows the market. And I would say that just kind of ladders up to really knowing your customer and knowing your audience, which obviously is very important for any marketer. Just taking the time to do research, getting insights from a range of people, because once it's out there, it's out there. And so you want to make sure, you want to feel good about what you've done and the kind of the thought you put into the campaign, but just always take that extra step to really get, as much, customer insight as possible. So.
Just a super quick break from this conversation to let you know that if you're a B2B technology or professional services company and you want help with streamlining your content operations, outsourcing your content repurposing is the number one way to produce more high quality content and boost your ROI without putting any more pressure on your team. In fact, it could save your team up to 30 hours per week. We offer content repurposing services for video and audio content. Whether you have a show or you're launching a brand new one, maybe you have an archive of awesome content, be it webinars or a virtual event, or you want help creating thought leadership content that we can repurpose, we've got you covered. Head to content10x.com to see how we can help you and start increasing your efficiency and the value you get from your content. Now back to the conversation. And as you were saying that, I was just thinking to myself, gosh, maybe they just even asked ChatGPT and that told them, which is a really good lead into my next question, which is around AI, because obviously big thing and has been for years, but, really, really hot topic in the world of content marketing. Loads of different content marketing teams getting to grips with the abundance of Gen AI tools and things like that are available to us. How are you and your team leveraging AI at the moment within specifically the content area?
Sure. So I would say, obviously, transformative tool. I think marketers are really just getting started on this. I would say even me personally and my team, I would say probably just scratching the surface in terms of what it can truly be used for. I would say it ranges across the team. I can give you two examples of how I use it. One is around just content ideation, just getting started, writer's block. How do I get this going? Giving some basic prompts, iterating from there. And that just gets the ball off the ground, as we'd say, and figuring out kind of where are some further areas that as the humans, the marketers would then want to iterate and kind of like tease out. So I would say from that perspective, it's been super helpful. And I would say, there are team members across the team that are doing similar things. The other that I find it's a little bit less, I'd say, on the content side, but more on kind of the data analytics side that's been helpful is, we as a mortgage company collect, lots of customer feedback, reviews, surveys, and it's great to get the quantitative scores and numbers, NPS, et cetera, and see how we're doing over time and track that. But there's so much qualitative feedback that we get from survey responses and just call it customer feedback in general. So we've really started to use AI as well to say, okay, like here's a range of customer feedback responses. Summarize this. What are some trends? How does it compare to this channel? And what are some of the themes that are emerging from this? Give me an example, a customer piece of feedback that might match this theme. And again, it doesn't replace then the action and the kind of the further analysis that we would need to do on our end, but at least gets it started and is able to kind of consume large amounts of data and qualitative data, which is something, is obviously really hard to kind of parse through. And so again, using that as a way to get at customer insights a little bit quicker, a little bit more efficiently. So I'd say those are two areas. There's so much more that I think we could be doing as we learn, both on kind of, I'd say, the content generation side and the data analytics side. But I'd say, Stu, at the end of the day, as marketers, our role still is to think about the customer, think about what they're looking for, really know them. That really cannot be replaced by AI. So, bringing that customer empathy, the customer insights, kind of like the business strategy, all of the things that I would say you as the marketer really need to know and represent and advocate for on behalf of your customers are super important. So that's essentially how I'm using it. My team is using it, and I'd say where I see it going.
I completely agree with you. Looking into your crystal ball, so to speak. So what do you think the future of B2B marketing and content is going to look like? Let's say the next 5 to 10 years or so. Are there any big innovations or big changes that you foresee, coming down the line in B2B marketing?
Sure. I don't have a crystal ball, but I would just say from a marketer perspective and thinking about the areas of growth and innovation, for me, it probably comes down to a few areas. I would say one is around just the evolution of content in general and really just seeing the rise of video formats, different types of video format, maybe some interactive components that might be interesting. Just trying different formats as just the capabilities continue to advance and the ability for marketers to do a range of video, potentially even, without kind of complex tools and just making it super easy for them to get video out. I would say that's one. I say the second is around just like authenticity and just really starting to see a greater emphasis on just authentic voices, people who really know their customers, really get great insights about what they're looking for and do it from a really consistent basis. So I would just say, just authenticity and really knowing your customer and seeing that as a trend. And then AI, I really don't know what AI could be in 5 to 10 years, but is thinking about just the tasks and the execution of getting campaigns out the door. I would say, reduction of those tasks, making the execution process easier, quicker, I think is probably just a general trend. And so as we all learn about what are the aspects of call it campaign strategy execution that can be done by AI, I would say that is definitely a trend. And I would expect to see marketers and brands being able to get things done quicker and more efficiently, by using AI. So I would say those are really kind of the 3 areas, kind of from a content perspective, authenticity perspective, and then lastly around AI.
I really like that. And actually, it's interesting, I guess, like there's like contrast with authenticity and AI in terms of, I completely agree with you. People are going to want more authentic content because of the rise of AI. But then that's AI being used in the wrong way when it's generating content. But from what you were just saying, the actual way that we work and improving like systems and processes and making things slicker and, it getting embedded into tools that we use now that will be far better and more enhanced and quicker because of AI. It's just going to like kind of be everywhere, even when we don't know it, isn't it? But I completely agree with you. We're going to get hopefully faster and more efficient at doing things, but then there'll be more demand than ever for that authenticity and all of that. So I really love that answer. So fun part of the episode. So we asked the previous guest on the podcast if they can ask a question to the next guest. So not knowing who you are, but knowing that you are a leader in the content marketing, in the B2B marketing space. And so the last guest, Paul Way, content marketing director at Topality. And his question to you is,
if someone came up to you today with all of your experience and said, I want to get into content marketing, what advice would you give them about how to succeed in it, knowing what you know right now?
Yeah, sure. So I would say, it really, for me, it comes down to really 3 things. And it's interesting because when I thought about this, it's not just, I would say, content marketing, but I would just marketing in general. So I'll kind of connect the two. But I would say, first and foremost, at the end of the day, you really have to know who your audience is, like really, really know them deeply. So thinking about like, who are you speaking to or who are you trying to reach? What are they interested in? Like, and then to the extent of which you can develop personas about who they are, their needs, their interests, the challenges that they have, just really before you even begin any sort of content strategy, really focusing on who that is. Because if you have a general idea or it's not super specific, I think you might be led down a different path and maybe not achieve the outcomes that you're looking for. So I would say that's one. I'd say the other, again, content marketer or marketer in general, is you want to balance the kind of the analytical and the creative side of your brains in terms of putting together that content strategy. So on the creative side, just try not to do something that everyone else has already done. Just really kind of flex your creative muscle, get input from team members. You can obviously look for inspiration from other brands, maybe other brands outside of your specific area of focus, but really try to get creative. Attention spans are so limited these days. So your ability where you can get creative is really important. And I would say on the other side of it is use the data that you have to help also refine what you're trying to do. I mean, I think, let the data give you that direction in terms of where you want to focus, like what are the stories that have maybe resonated in the past, or what do you know about your target audience from a data perspective that would really help you put a fine point on your content plan. So I'd say be creative and analytical. And the last thing I would say is just like being consistent, right? And so, really getting into, even if you haven't kind of fully refined it over time, just being consistent. Your audience, if you know who your audience are, you really get a good sense of who they are. You've got a great content strategy, the execution, the consistency being to deliver it on a consistent basis with a consistent format. So you can start to, I would, train, educate, entertain, whatever it is, but building that over time, I think is super important. So I would say those are probably the 3 things.
Yeah. And patience is so important, isn't it? So consistency.
Oh yeah, sure.
You've got to be consistent because with content, you've got to be patient, and most marketing campaigns as well. So
that's true.
Yeah. Just one extra edge to that. So let's say this person who's asking you advice, they're 18 and they're deciding whether to go off to college or university and spend spend a fortune having that experience learning marketing, or go right out there in the trenches and just get that apprentice, I suppose, junior level position. What would your view be there, like in terms of how important do you think it is to study academically versus get out there and get rolling your sleeves up?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. For me, I think it kind of goes back to really, when I explain marketing, what do I do to someone who's maybe just getting started in their career? I always start with saying, like, marketing from my perspective is all about knowing who your audience is, getting those insights, and then being able to uncover something that maybe your competitors haven't yet, or they're not quite there, and finding something, an insight, drawing on that insight, and then building a marketing strategy campaign approach around that insight, and then continue, test that insight and iterate from there. And honestly, just starting out, I think that's where I would focus is really, you can never spend too much time getting to know who your audience is. And so, I think it's a mix of both, I would say, the academic side and the kind of more professional or practical side in terms of getting it out. Like, if you're studying to be, a marketer, taking marketing now, if there's an opportunity to do an internship along the way, even if it's something, maybe it's not in an industry you don't see yourself in the future, just some practical experience that you can apply some of the learnings and the knowledge that you're getting through your academic program in real time. And I was fortunate to be able to do that when I was getting my graduate degree in business. I had a fantastic internship at American Express, and I turned that internship into ultimately a 12-year career with the company. But I chose to do the internship and then continue the internship while I was pursuing my degree, because I was able to apply the knowledge and concepts that I was getting in my academic program to real life examples like segmentation, marketing strategy, channel strategy, measurement, campaign measurement, like all of the things that you learn about, applying them to a real life campaign was super important for me. So I would say, to the extent in which you can do both, I would go for it.
Yeah, I completely agree that the college, university route does often align with and open doors to some of those bigger organizations, doesn't it? And if you can find something that mixes and blends the both, I think that's a really good route to take. So yeah, great answer.
Yeah, for sure.
So now the last question to you is actually for you to ask a question. So for our next guest, so a fellow leader in the B2B marketing space, what question would you like to ask them?
Sure. I'd love to know a bit about the last rockstar marketer that you hired. What made that person so special?
Brilliant question. And I really look forward to hearing that answer as well. So thank you.
Sure. So do I.
Well, Matt, we've run out of time, but it's been a wonderful conversation. So thank you. Thank you for sharing, so many great insights. It's really just so interesting to hear about all your experiences and views and opinions. So thanks for being so open and sharing such a great interview. Where would you like people to go to connect with you? Should we share your LinkedIn profile and ask people to connect there, or?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. LinkedIn is probably the best way to reach me. So that would be fine with me.
Okay, great. Any other actions you'd like people to take?
No, I would just say, just continue to be curious and continue to learn about kind of trends in marketing and get cool stuff out.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you so much, Matt. It's been a great episode. So yeah, it's been great to talk.
Thanks, Amy, so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of B2B Content Strategist. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Feel free to connect with me on social media. You can find me, Amy Woods, founder of Content 10X, on LinkedIn. If you get in touch, please do leave a message and let me know that you listen to B2B Content Strategist. You can also connect with Content 10X. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And for more insights on optimizing your content marketing and the power of repurposing, head over to content10x.com. You'll discover valuable resources to help you maximize the impact of your content. We have our sister podcast, the Content 10X podcast, hundreds and hundreds of blog posts, and a library full of free resources and guides all about how to be a better content creator and content repurposer. If you're seeking consulting support or a trusted partner to handle your content creation, repurposing and distribution, then also reach out to us. We offer a world-class, fully managed service that takes care of as much or as little as you need when you need it. Once again, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'll catch you in the next one.